be exactly what you want to be without all of the fear around you. We have to stand up together.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Sisneros. Welcome to another episode of the Chairman Project. And today we're going to jump in and we're going to talk about SME, small and mid-sized enterprises. If you are new to the show, I refer to SME a lot. It just means small and mid-sized enterprises. The measurement by which you can tell if you're in that range is you have a business, but you have 0 employees all the way to 499 employees. That's my people. That's where I came from. And that's the folks that I chat with every single week here on the show. So welcome back to another episode. We're going to be talking a little bit about SME as a big business, SME, and the history of why it's so important. This last couple of weeks, this week, we talk about tactics and whatnot. I'm going to give you some strategies and whatnot, but I wanted to open the show today with letting you know who you are. Letting you know who you are. And you're like, Jason, you don't know who I am. You don't know me. Well, look, if you happen to be a business owner, if you happen to be playing this game that 95% of people fail at, if you happen to be one of the 33 million weirdos in the United States here that have decided that they're going to be a business owner, then yes, I do know you because I am you. We are each other. And I wanted to address this. I did, 4 or 5 podcasts with other people. I see Paul in the audience today. Make sure you go and see our podcast that I did with him. I believe it's over on LinkedIn. But I've did 4 or 5 conversations, and there's this theme that I think we are getting lost in. We're being pushed to be so busy that sometimes we forget the perspective of the game that we're playing, right? This intellectual sport called business, and who we are as a people. And so I wanted to go back. I've set this premise multiple times, but I wanted to do the bigger chunk of the show just to let you know who you are and how important you are, not just to this generation, but to the next generation and the generations that come after it, because you call yourself a business owner, because you have decided to play this game, because you've decided to take the risk, right? Because you've decided to engage, whether you can articulate it or have articulated it this way in the past, but what you are engaged in is a blatant act of rebellion. I know I've said this multiple times, but I want you to understand you are a rebel. You're a rebel. What are you a rebel against? You're a rebel against being controlled by a big company, by working for and being told when you can come to work, when you can get sick, when you can how many days you could take off if you have a baby. You're in blatant rebellion against being attached to or being subservient to a centralized government to have to beg for your check and wait for them to be able to give you handouts. That is who you are. We stand out in this country, 33 million businesses, about 330 million people, somewhere around that period or that amount of people, right? About 10% or less that have a belligerent refusal to be controlled. And so what you've done is you've decided to take back control of your own life, or at least the opportunity thereof. And I started to think about that in all of the conversations that we had this week. And like I said, Paul is in the room. Make sure you go and follow him. Make sure that you watch the interview that we did. It was fascinating. He asked me some very unique questions, of which I don't think I've ever answered publicly before. I started to think about it in perspective, okay? And then we're going to start where we are right now, and then we're going to go all the way back to where we started, where this idea of ethical capitalism. I watched an interview happen this week with Charlie Kirk. And if you know Charlie Kirk, he does really great interviews. He's an amazing patriot, very intellectual guy. And he got into this battle as he normally does. He exemplifies to me the conversations that we should be having. People that are Democrats having conversations with Republicans so that we understand each other better, et cetera, et cetera. I've moved beyond the political realm because, and yes, it's important. Yes, who you vote for matters, all of that kind of stuff. but my conversations are not political, because at the end of the day, what happens in politics is a reflection of what's going on in the citizenry. Okay. And when we look at what's going on in the citizenry, what happens to slowly over time, or all what appears to be all at once, typically, if you have a well-run country, you have opportunity, you have those types of things, what happens is you have consolidation of too much wealth and too much power into the pockets and into the pens of too few people, right? The Constitution of the United States is an anti-consolidation document for that to not happen. Well, if you start to ignore those central governing rules and tactics and theories and strategies and culture, then what happens is it starts to fall apart. Well, what I believe is that in politics, they retain power by separating and dividing us, okay? So I'm done with the Republican Democrat conversation because it's not helpful. Right? It's not helpful. What is helpful is for the 10% of us, the 33 million of us, to understand the influence and impact and input that we have to a country that allows us to be in the seat that we're in the first place. For us to be able to sit in the seat of choice, to have the choice to be able to roll the dice and go of our own volition, of our own risk, to be able to improve and increase our own talents and our own skill sets, to be able to create a sense of freedom, an actual reality of freedom economically for us and our family. Now that number ranges for a lot of people, okay? 33 million people. The average company that has 0 employees is doing $100,000 or less. Now that may seem like, in the realm of the fake gurus these days, that may not seem like a lot of money, but $100,000 of which you're creating on your own in your own time with your own business, that's a significant amount of money. Okay. Now, and we don't downplay any of that, because at the end of the day, this is about you. Now, what this show is about increasing that. It's interesting. I put a post on one of the platforms. What was it? TikTok this week, and I got a warning for the last video. You can go there and see it. They didn't take it down, but what they didn't do was allow it to have any spread. I got a notice that I had offended their community standards or whatever. And here's what I said. This is all I said. I said, if you're doing $100,000 or less in your business, your next goal should be $300,000. That's what I said. And I said, in the context, if you're listening to a whole bunch of gurus and you're listening to all these people telling you that you can go to 10 million in 9 months, just buy their book, buy their thing, blah, 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 blah. It's total and complete bullshit. That's all I said. How does that offend community standards when you have these fake ass gurus telling you and lying to people about how quickly they can attain wealth and make money with their businesses? That should be against community standards. My whole show is against community standards of saying, stop lying to people, tell them the truth so that we execute on the right strategies and the right tactics and the right behaviors and the right beliefs and the right work, so that we can increase individually. You, the person that's listening to me, you, the person that's watching this on replay, you, the person that's getting this in your email at built-to-exit.biz, it's about you. And you being able to expand on your choices by making more money, by giving yourself economic advantage, by making $1,000 more, $10,000 more, $200,000 more, $300,000 more, and doing it with principled ethical capitalism. That's what this show is about. How can they tell me that me just stating a truth, because again, remember, the average for anybody that owns a company that has 0 employees, the average is lower than $100,000. So I'm speaking to a lot of people. There's no shame in that. I'm not going to be like these other gurus and tell you, oh, you suck, right? You're just not doing the right things and you got to pound your chest and look at me getting into my jet. Look at me getting into my blah, 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 that I can't afford payments on unless I bullshit you enough to be able to make my payment next month, right? This is what I'm fighting against. This is why this community has gelled together, because there are a certain amount of people within that 33 million people that are tired of being lied to. I have just like you, I have bought the seminars and the books and the CDs and traveled across the country and gone to retreats and done all the stuff, right? I have done all of that. And very little of that. I learned more of what not to do, but very little of that has actually impacted me. You know what has impacted me? Doing business, right? Learning from people who have had their tail kicked in business, and learning as I go the things that I need to do, and discovering along the way that there is a system to be able to follow for me and for lots of people now. I mean, one of my companies is Anton J Global. We do consulting for businesses that have 10 or more employees that are looking to go to the next level. I've also built and developed one of the best, not one of the best, I'll say it not out of ego, but the best digital program, 28 hours. There's a lot of graduates that are here on stage. They can talk about it. I don't need to, but some of the best content to say, here's your system of how you do it. I don't know what you do. I'm never going to be as good at what you do as you are, but I can damn straight help you do it better to go from 100,000 to 200 to 300 to 750 to 1 million to 5 million to 10 million. I know how to do that. That's what I do. I create 5% companies. 5%, 95% of companies fail, 5% succeed, right? And I build 5% companies and create 1% business owners. The 1% that are able to leave their business and have the money flow in, or to be able to sell that business and harvest their wealth. Just so you can be free. That's my job. And I don't think that our community, the business community, doesn't realize the influence that we have over the systems, the culture, the citizenry. We don't realize the influence and the power that we actually have. Why? Because we're not gathered together. We are not unified. We are not unified as a group of human beings that realizes if we allow this to go away, what's going to happen? All that opportunity goes out the door. All of it. It goes out the door. You're going to be working for a big company, or you're going to be begging for the government. That is what happens in every society that fails. Right? We started before this in our live version on Twitter. We started talking about these other countries, and I'm getting ready to go and do a bunch of countries next year. And I've been to a lot of countries. I've traveled this world. I've had amazing conversations. And what I get called to these other countries to do is to talk about business, because they're desperate to understand the American way, something that we've taken for granted. They're desperate to understand, how can you start with zero and end up becoming a multimillionaire, or being able to just support your family with this thing called business. And the challenge is that I can teach all of that, but the culture of that country has to accept the idea that an individual can create something with their own business for themselves by creating value for other people. Ethical capitalism. And I watched this interview that was happening with Charlie Kirk, and he was having this amazing conversation, and he got to the place where this person who was opposing him, he's a Republican, the person that was opposing him was a liberal, and they were having an amazing discussion that I learned a lot from both sides. But it got to the place where this gentleman asked Charlie Kirk, he said, well, then how come there's so much damage being done by business, right? And I thought to myself, oh, I need to get hold of Charlie. I need to have him be able to have a good conversation and a good response to his response was okay, but it wasn't the specific thing that I wanted to talk about today. And the specific thing I wanted to talk about is there is a definitive line. There is a definitive line between unethical capitalism and ethical capitalism. There is a definitive line. And that definitive line is simply the innovative, when you look at small to mid-sized companies, there can be no racism, there can be no misogyny, there can be no sexism, there can be no genderism, there can be none of that stuff, because you are falling in love with the outcome of somebody else, and how you deliver that and what they feel about you is in direct proportion to your ability to be able to earn and to be able to sell and to be able to run your business successfully. So none of that can exist. Now, you may have it. Business owners have their own prejudices and whatever, but it can't display itself in the workplace. You can't take advantage of your employees as an ethical capitalism in the small to mid-sized world, because they will leave you and go work for somebody else. You have to treat them better. Now, when you get into Amazon, all they're doing is working you like a dog and videotaping you or video cameraing you, all that kind of shit, so that they can turn what you do into a robot, so that they can fire you, Because if you're working for them, a robot's not going to get pregnant, a robot's not going to have sexual harassment charges, a robot's not going to need days off, a robot's never going to get sick. Okay? That's what the difference is. There is a dividing line, and we need to understand what side of the dividing line that we are on. And we are on the ethical capitalism side, the thing that has changed the world. That changed the world. Are you a business owner that's looking to build your company into a machine that creates cash? I'm Jason Sisneros, chairman and founder of Anton J Global, a world-class business consulting company that has turned around, merged, or prepped for sale hundreds of companies just like yours. I'm best known as the architect when it comes to fixing and building companies across the globe. My experience comes from owning and exiting over 20 of my own companies successfully. It's that real-world experience that I've converted into the ultimate blueprint that has saved and grown my clients' businesses. If you're tired of getting bad advice, have bought all the books, all the coaching programs, and still aren't seeing the success that you were promised, it might be time to work with a team that has actual experience and a track record of success. Please scan the QR code or visit antonj.com to schedule your free 15-minute consultation to see if we can help you reach your outcomes. That's antonj.com, ANTONJAE.com. Okay, change the world. And here's what I wrote. I wrote this, I was going to put it on a post on Facebook, but I wanted to save it for y'all for this particular thing. But here's what I wrote, and here's what I want to lead into this particular episode. But here's what I wrote. I said, in the rush to convenience and a perceived temporary advantage, we have sold and are in the process of selling our freedom. NVIDIA is worth $3.3 trillion. Microsoft is worth $3.1 trillion. Apple is worth $2 trillion. Amazon is worth $1.3 trillion. Why? Because we gave them everything. We gave them everything and continue to give them everything. Why is that 3.3? Let's talk about NVIDIA for just a second. Okay. The AI revolution that's supposedly happening. Okay. My opinion is that NVIDIA is going to crash. It's going to take the whole stock market down with it because the hardware to back up what they're doing doesn't exist. I think, but it's here to stay. Like AI is here to stay. I'm not here to deny it. That's not what I'm trying to say. But why is NVIDIA worth $3.3 trillion under the concept and the idea? And why are you not worth 100 million? Why are you not worth 50 million? Why is your business? Because we gave them everything, and we continue to this day to give them everything. What do I mean by that? Your ideas. You put in something, ChatGPT, whatever it is for AI, you put something in there, they now have that idea. They have that unique idea that you particularly had, but you think that giving it to them is going to advantage you, and it will in the short term. But what happens when you've given them all of your ideas, and now that becomes public knowledge, and it can be Googled or ChatGPT'd by anybody? Right? You gave them everything. We're giving them our ideas. We're giving them our connections, everybody that we're connected to, all of our conversations, access to our email, access to our text messages, access to our phone calls, right? We're giving them our face. We're giving them our voices. We're giving them our location. We're giving them all of the stuff that they need. And ultimately, we're giving them our family. That's why these companies are worth $3.3 trillion, and you're struggling to get over $100,000 with your company, or $200,000 or $1 million, whatever it is that you're looking to take your business to the next level. It's because we're giving them away. We're just giving our autonomy away. All this money's in their hands, not yours. Whether you like it or not, money is the vote. You choose with every purchase you make. That money used to be used in local economies. Now it's in billionaires' hands and the politicians that they own. It could be reversed. It doesn't take Republicans or Democrats. I'm reading directly from what I was going to post, but I'm reading it for you. It doesn't take Republicans or Democrats. That's the lie. It takes making the decision for you to buy local, to find smaller e-com businesses to support. It takes building a business. It takes not doing business with these multinational companies. Maybe spend less on the stupid shit that you don't need. Okay? These are things people don't want to hear, but I'm talking to business owners, and y'all, literally a real business owner wants to have a great coach that pisses them off and tells them what they need to hear. Okay? That's what a business owner wants, because they're tired of lies. We know that sweet words absolutely do nothing but cause the diabetes of your business. You want to be told the truth, and this is the conversation that we need to be having. It takes voting people in that will enforce antitrust laws. This one would change the world back to the citizens by itself. Antitrust laws. Jason, I want to know more about how to fix my business today. I'll get to that. We talk about that every single week. I need you to know and understand the role that you play so that you will understand how important you are. I don't care what size you could be making $50,000 a year. You could be struggling to make your rent. You could be a $5 million business. I don't care. You are incredibly important. And you've got to know where you sit historically, and you've got to know where you fit in the importance of this country remaining free for future generations. It takes voting people in that will enforce antitrust laws. The one reason that it may not be stopped, here's the sentence: I got to get mine. Okay? I got to get mine. That is not a culture. Think about your business. Think about your family. If you're married and your constant thought process is that you've got to be the one that gets all the attention. If Emily and I are in a relationship and she has to do everything, how long is she going to want to be in that relationship? Because I want to get everything that I need for my selfish needs all the time. It's not a good culture. It's not a good one-on-one relationship. It's not a good family relationship. It's not a good friendship relationship. It's not a good strategy for long-term success in anything, much less business. And so you cut corners, you cut ethics, you cut out all the stuff. You buy fake gurus bullshit because you think there's a shortcut. I got to get mine is the inscription on our constitutional republic's headstone. I'm going to say that again. Well, a lot of people think we're a democracy. A democracy always ends up being communism or socialism. A lot of these countries that are out there, like I said, if you go there, it's great. They're beautiful countries, lots of history, a lot of great food. But the business environment, the ability for the individual, Italy is shifting right now, right? But they have been primarily a socialist community. I know a lot of Italians that have moved to the United States. I know a lot of the scenarios that were going on in Italy, and they moved here for the opportunity. It's shifting back. I think this is shifting back in a lot of countries, Argentina, Italy. There's countries out there that are shifting back to the individual and understanding that they have to support their business class, their ethical mid-size, small and mid-size companies, because that's where production happens. Here in the United States, we do 60% of the GDP of a $27, $28 trillion economy. We do $17 to $18 trillion of that. 60% of the hiring. If that goes stagnant, the entire country takes a different direction that none of us are going to like, including the ones that want us to go that direction. I got to get mine as the inscription on the constitutional republic headstone. It is the inscription on the headstone of every failed empire ever in the history of mankind. I got to get mine. It becomes more about the individual, becomes more about wanting to get mine while it exists. You see that happening in our government. What a bunch. It's just basically, when I envision what's going on in Washington, D.C. at the upper levels of our government right now, it's just a bunch of kids fighting over all the candy on the table, and they're trying to scrape it into their pockets as quickly as they possibly can. I see the same thing in these multinational businesses. that have stopped the natural evolution of business, which is built on creative destruction. What do I mean by that? Creative destruction in business means that you build your business, you build it, you go from a small company to eventually becoming a big business. And then what happens is you stop innovating because it becomes about protection. And some small startup who's not afraid of losing or not afraid of risking comes up and kicks your ass, and that big business goes out of business. And then they become the big business, and then they go out of business. And there's continual evolution and innovation that happens. When the government steps in and combines and stops that process because Amazon or Nvidia or Microsoft or whatever want to use their power and their money to influence the central government to set laws against creative destruction, you will see the elimination of the opportunity that we all see in front of us right now, which is continuing to be free economically by the free choice of me operating a business. Somebody like me, I think, again, if you're spoiled and you have, all the stuff taken care of you, you're probably not part of my audience in the first place, but I'm a nobody from nowhere that was able, and I'm still not important in the grand scheme of conversations that happen worldwide. I'm still not, it doesn't matter. But what I can tell you that I have freedom of choice economically because of what we talk about week to week. Now, it doesn't matter. You're not going to see on my Instagram cars and houses and all the other stuff. You're not going to see it because it's not important to you. I don't buy followers. I don't buy any of that shit because at the end of the day, all I want is for you to tell somebody. For the reason that people are here is because you got tired of being lied to, because you've bought all the bullshit. You've traveled to all the bullshit seminars. You've done all the stuff and you are looking for real. It's not as exciting. It's not as sexy. It's not as wowzer, I'm part of blah, 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 right? It's not that exciting. But what it is it is the truth. And it is the information that will set you and your family free. You don't have to have a jet for you to be successful. What if you had enough money that you were able to go on vacations and you were able to have a business that was running that you were able to give to your kids or whatever it is? What if you were able to retire comfortably? What if you were able to travel, do the things that you want to do? What if you were able to give an extra $100,000 to the thing that you loved in charity, right? What if you were able to go on that trip? What if you owning a business is you being able to fill in your what if by overcoming your weaknesses, building on your strengths, falling in love with the outcome of somebody else's dreams, falling in love with the outcome of your clients, falling in love with your employees' outcomes, falling in love with everybody else's outcomes, blah, 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 blah. That's your what if. That's what funds your what if. And it's not going to be done by you following a bunch of horse shit snake oil. I got to get mine is the inscription of every single empire in the history of mankind. It's being chiseled, y'all. It's being chiseled into America's headstone right now. If I got to get mine is the inscription on the headstone of our constitutional republic. We're at the get. I is chiseled in. Gotta is chiseled in. Get is chiseled in. They might even be started on the M in mine. It's unsustainable and we know it. What we're doing in this country is unsustainable. We will all suffer. Your families will all suffer. Your friends will all suffer. Everybody that you know, all of them will suffer unless we reverse this trend and start putting money in each other's pockets. This is not a conversation week to week that I have about y'all putting money in my pocket. I got enough. There's only two things that you can do with me to spend money with me anyway, unless you're doing business with any of my other companies. But there's only two things you can do. Get a growth course that's going to help you put more money in your pocket, growthcourse.com, or you're going to call in my company, an amazing team of people to come in and help your company take it to the next level through a deep dive through AntonJay.com, AntonJae.com. Those are the only two things you can do with me. Hi, my name is Jason Sisneros, founder and chairman of Anton J Global. a world-class business consulting company that has helped hundreds of clients and thousands of growth course students fix, scale, and successfully master their businesses. To put it simply, my team and I help people turn their businesses into machines that create cash. To better support startups and other mid-sized companies, my team and I developed a phenomenal and comprehensive digital growth course where I poured decades of business ownership and know-how into 20 hours of content. This course is not easy. It's not an easy pill, but demands real work from you to implement the blueprints that I've developed. We know that reaching financial freedom is never easy, but totally worth it. Go to growthcourse.com right now to learn more about the course and get started on your business journey today. But in the audience and in the people in the comments, as this goes out around the world, right? What happens is there's people in the comments and there's people on the stage live, right? That do business with each other. I heard just this week of several conversations that are happening between the people that are on my platform, the live platform, of people doing business with each other, having conversations with each other, jumping on each other's podcasts. That is what this is about. This is not about Jason Sisneros, I got to get mine. It shouldn't be about you getting yours. It should be us spreading the wealth that we're able to create with each other in our local environments, in our digital environments, and making sure that we pass something on to our children, and not to pass on misery, and not to pass on desperation, and not to pass on begging for food and begging for water and begging for the right to exist. And it's happened in Italy for many, many years. You got just enough money to be able to exist, which led to them creating, they had to depend on their families. Everything began. Look, there's two things, right? There's two things. There's opportunity, right? There's opportunities to succeed, or there's the requirements to survive. And those are two very, very different existences. There are a lot of countries that are out there that simply have a citizenry that have to use their innovation to be able to survive. Opportunity isn't even part of the conversation. Opportunity to take their own family and to be able to take themselves to the next level, or to be able to do something as simple as go on a vacation to another country, or to be able to get a car that runs, or whatever it is. There's just enough to get by. Therefore, you can never rise up. You can never have a voice. You can never have influence. There's just enough. You have to spend your time figuring out how you and your family could get by day to day. Therefore, you will never have a voice in how your country is run. Therefore, you will never have a voice in how your local community is run. That's where most countries are. I don't want this country to become that. It's way beyond Democrat and Republican. And anybody that is fighting that battle, in my mind, is ignorant. Now, yes, there's better choices on one side or the other. There's better choices, but at the end of the day, it's corrupt. It needs to all be replaced, right? I had a hashtag a lot of years ago that was hashtag replace them all. You could take a phone book, and I could randomly point at names in the phone book and put 50 senators or 100 senators, and I could put a bunch of congressmen, and I could probably even put my finger on the president, which I can because I know there's one on our live app right now on Twitter, right? I could just put a finger, and this country would be better run than it is right now because the corruption would leave. Oh, they don't have experience. Experience at what? Ripping people off? Experience at what? Lying to people? Experience at what? Covering each other's backs? Experience at what? Not understanding business and completely and totally draining people's pocketbooks for their own, I got to get mine? Are you kidding me? This country is a constitutional republic, not a democracy. It's a constitutional republic. So anyway, throughout history, I found it interesting, and I'm gonna wrap this here in about 5 minutes. But here, I found it interesting, right? Let me get back through my notes here because I want to make sure I hit a couple of these points. But the idea that the backbone of the American economy has always been the small business owner, it goes back a long ways. And where that started, and this is why, like when you're having these conversations and you're out telling other business owners that they've got to be here on Saturday, or they at least have to sign up at built-to-exit.biz to get these podcasts, we got to understand that's another backbone. And you as the business owner who somehow wonderfully has ended up in my community, you used to feel alone and now you don't. So there's other business owners that are out there think that they're fighting this battle all by themselves. You got to bring them in. You've got to bring them together with us. They've got to be here on Saturday. You can't just come here and take the information, which is phenomenal, and it does help you. But this cannot be, I cannot be the Hitch, right? Those of you that remember the movie Hitch, right? He was a guy that helped people, pick up women or get the woman of their lives or the women of their dreams or whatever, but he couldn't advertise. He didn't want anybody to know about it. And the only way that you would hear about it is a business card that was handed off to you by somebody else who used his services. I cannot be the Hitch of business. We've got to share this. You all know business owners. You've got to bring them here on Saturday for the live discussion so that we can all get to know each other, so that we're all consuming the same information, so that we're all helping each other succeed in this period of time where there's a magic trick going on. Hey, be distracted out there. Republican, Democrat, fight with each other. Black, white, fight with each other. Gay, straight, fight with each other. All these you religions fight with each other. That there's a magic trick going on, and it's called distraction. Every magic trick is only a good magic trick because the magician is wonderful at distraction. He takes your eyes even for a moment. That's where he switches out the cards. You take the eyes just for a moment. That's where something else happens. We are in the midst of that. We have to take our blinders off and understand that we're in a magic trick that goes, hey, be divided on all of these other things while we steal your sovereignty, while we steal your voice, while we steal the money, while we steal your opportunity. That's our responsibility, and we got to come together. That's why this conversation is so important. But I found it interesting, and one of the stories that I came across was the story of Paul Revere. And I like to think of myself as a little bit of a Paul Revere, not in the same sense, but in the sense that I believe that our sovereignty and our freedom, yes, there's lots of components to it. But starting in 1890, there was something that happened in the history of mankind that never happened before, and it's called the Sherman Act, that in 1914 became the Clayton Act, which in 1936 became the Robinson-Patman Act, which led to 1960, one of the greatest books on economics that I've ever read and that we should constantly read is called The Constitution of Liberty by F.A. Hayek. Right? That was simply the antitrust world, where companies could not get so big that they disadvantaged people and could coordinate corruptly with a centralized government. That's what it's there for. That book, those laws are on the books right now. And if we enforce them, it would be a much better environment for you. We wouldn't be giving away. We wouldn't have NVIDIAs that were worth $3.3 trillion. We wouldn't have, $3.3 trillion of Microsoft. We wouldn't have all of these companies. We would have that spread amongst performers that were involved in ethical capitalism, which is creative destruction, which is what needs to happen in an environment of competition. Right? That's what would be going on. And I went back and I looked at the story of Paul Revere. And I'm going to just read some stuff that I came up with in my research. Paul Revere is widely known for his midnight ride in 1775, alerting the colonial militia of the approaching British forces. Imagine if there wasn't a Paul Revere. Imagine if there weren't people listening to Paul Revere. Imagine if there were people that were just okay with British soldiers being able to come into your house and have sex with your daughters or your wife and call it prima nocta because it's a law. Imagine 90% of your tax money, which you should because that's what's happening right now, tax money going to a foreign government. Imagine all of that, and you're going to be one of the 3% of a country that says, nope, not going to do it. And it was led by Paul Revere. In 1775, he alerted the colonial militia of the approaching British forces before the battles of Lexington and Concord. However, his contributions to American history extend far beyond the legendary act of patriotism. He was born 1735 in Boston, Massachusetts, son of French Huguenot immigrant who became a master silversmith. From a young age, Revere was trained in the art of silversmithing. Small business back in the day, eventually taking over his father's business. His skill and craftsmanship earned him a reputation as one of the finest silversmiths of the colonies. Can you be called the finest silversmith of your industry? Yes or no? Right? You got to see yourself in the history. You got to see yourself, because otherwise you think you're a feather floating in the air. You're not. You're incredibly important. Revere's entrepreneurial spirit led him to diversify his business ventures. Beyond silversmithing, he expanded into various trades, including dentistry, engraving, production of copper products. His ability to adapt and innovate was key to his success. And during the Revolutionary War, Revere's skills were put to use, manufacturing gunpowder and cannons for the Continental Army, showcasing his ability to pivot his business in response to changing circumstances. Fascinating. If you don't have a system, you can't pivot. If you don't have an opportunity to build a small business of your own, you have no opportunity to pivot. Paul Revere's business acumen ensured that his enterprises continued to thrive long after the war. He established the first successful copper rolling mill in North America, supplying essential materials for the burgeoning American industry. Revere's story is a testament to the power of adaptability, innovation, and resilience, qualities that continue to define successful and small mid-sized businesses today. Fascinating. The man who is famous, right? Famous, he only had the ability to jump on that horse and to be able to alert the rest of the people because he had created financial stability, financial gap, financial choices for him and his family and ultimately his country because he was a small business owner. Do you see the similarities? Do you see how important you can be? Ray Kroc, right? He's another one. Built a huge business. Built on systems, process. Ray Kroc's genius lay in creating a comprehensive system that all franchises had to follow, from food preparation to customer service. Systemization was crucial in maintaining the brand's reputation and allowed for rapid expansion. By standardizing operations and insisting on strict adherence to guidelines, Kroc ensured that every McDonald's outlet operated with the same efficiency and quality as the original. Systems and processes. We've talked a lot about, I'm going to kind of wrap this up now. Right? We've talked a lot about the idea of how important you are. Please know that you are. Please know that you need to find other small businesses just like you. Please know you got to bring them here. You got to bring them to this conversation. You got to expose them to this, or else start your own damn podcast and start having the conversations with other people. We've got to attract people to this message. We've got to attract specifically, we have to attract small and mid-sized company owners to know and understand there's a place they can come that is not full of shit, that you can get skill sets, that you can do business with each other, that we can help expand and support each other in an environment where we got called non-essential. 60% of the GDP in this country got called non-essential by a bunch of centralized corrupt governments and a bunch of unethical large capitalist businesses. And nobody stood up for us. This is us standing up for ourselves. This is us taking our responsibility into our hands. Bring somebody with you. So I'm going to wrap it up with this. There's 3 things that you got to understand about being a business owner. You have a willingness to work hard. And when you couple that with a system, you have the opportunity to scale and to become successful, to reach your own version of your end game, to become financially free. You have a desire to control your own destiny. And when that meets a system, you have the opportunity to succeed. Some of you are operating in desperation. And then when that meets a system, you have the opportunity to alleviate the desperation and for you to be able to get to work. You are incredibly important. Please put down the partisan weapons. Please stop engaging in the victimhood stuff. Please stop. And I know a lot of you aren't. I'm speaking to the choir when I talk about a lot of this stuff. But at the end of the day, anything that is keeping you distracted from building your own business day to day, from you doing business with other small business owners, for you bringing that business back local again, anytime, anything that we spend in doing anything outside of that is a gift and a bullet in the guns of our enemies, to be able to shoot our own opportunity, to be able to shoot our kids' futures, our grandkids, everybody that we know. We got to stand up, and you do that by getting better at what you do. Just like Paul Revere, it gives you the opportunity to make sure that you take your responsibility at making sure that this freedom and this opportunity rolls to the next generation. I'm Jason Sisneros. Thank you so much again for being with me week to week. I really, truly appreciate it. The amount of replays and shares, all that kind of stuff is very humbling to me. Thank you for doing it. Make sure that you go to builttoexit.biz, put in your email address. You get the summary of all of this week to week. If you want to go to the digital route and you want to learn what we teach and want to become a graduate of the growth course, go to growthcourse.com. And if you want to reach out to us because you have a business and you want to help take that to the next level, make sure you go to jasonsisneros.com, and you'll find in there antonj.com as well, antonjae.com. Book an appointment with us. I appreciate you all. Thank you for being here week to week. I'm going to jump off and jump into our live discussion on Twitter that we have every week. Join us there. It's 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. every single week on Saturday on Twitter at the J Sisneros on Twitter. Make sure you come, give us a follow, and we will see you in the next conversation. Love y'all. Peace.